Good evening, India. Thanks for joining us on Times Now. You're watching the Newshour. My name is Pranesh. Prime Minister Modi's visit to Maldives, which was just an ordinary effort to promote tourism, to promote Lakshadweep, has sparked a massive controversy. The picturesque island nation that was once the go-to destination for beach lovers worldwide, particularly among Indian tourists who made up largest markets for the country's tourism industry, has been transformed into a place of social ostracism and exclusion within just 24 hours. Maldives is paying a heavy price after Maldivian leaders went on an anti-India rant. From incompetent to unclean to smelly rooms in Indian hotels to calling PM Modi a clown and puppet of Israel, there was no end to insult. This triggered a strong wave of emotions within India, with people cancelling their tickets to Maldives and online travel bodies giving a boycott Maldives war cry. India lodged a strong protest, gave a 4-minute dressing down to the Maldivian envoy in New Delhi. That's right, 4 minutes is all it took for the Maldivian envoy to enter and exit the building. From government to leaders in opposition in island nation are trying to douse the blowback, but the opposition back home is providing them cover fire. For India, Team India I mean, the fault lies with Modi's foreign policy. Sample the reactions.
ये मालदीव के साथ हमारे दशकों पुरानी जो रिश्ता, उसमें भी दरार पैदा होते जा रहे हैं। मोदी जितने भी G20 करे, जितने भी बड़े-बड़े वादा करे, विश्वगुरु जितने भी बने, लेकिन हमारे स्थिति बड़े नाजुक होते जा रहे हैं।
When it comes to Maldives, it's an international affairs thing, and Congress should behave more maturely when it comes to that. So in the Maldives, the present dispensation in the Maldives has been kind of anti-India in few of their moves, I would say, or few of their statements. If someone acts like this, there'll be a repercussion in this way.
कई अवसरों पर हम अमेरिकी प्रतिक्रिया देख करके अपनी प्रतिक्रिया देखते हैं, तो हमारे किसी भी पड़ोसी मुल्क के साथ सौहार्दपूर्ण रिश्ते नहीं, इंक्लूडिंग नेपाल.
The Honorable Prime Minister came to Lakshadweep. He stayed there for one day, and he says something, which entire people of Lakshadweep was always wanted to have on tourism perspective. Even me, this is my second term, I was always wanting this government to have a policy in the tourism thing. So on that, why should these Maldives have a problem for that?
I think this could be a blessing in disguise, that no one is going to take the risk of going to a country where people are hostile.
So how much loss from the business point of view Maldives will suffer if India boycotts?
I think more than $1 billion.
Lakshadweep has seen a remarkable 3,400% increase in searches ever since our Honorable PM visited the islands. So this kind of inspired us to build an entire campaign around it. So we are launching Beaches of India.
We thought that we owe it to the country to be the country first and then business later. We have taken a stance of not serving 2.9 lakh people who travel to Maldives, and Is My Trip being one of the largest travel portals in the country, we surely will see a hit on the business. But we believe that in long term, it is great for the business, it is great for the nation. As the supply for Lakshadweep develops, as the supply for Andaman Nicobar develops, we will see the uptick come back.
You're watching the News Hour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now. Super Prime Time.
Let's open this up. Mohammad Faizal, Member of Parliament from Lakshadweep, Suhail Seth, author, columnist, wears multiple hats. Dr. Anand Ranganathan needs no introduction. Sanjay Jha, author, analyst. Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, completes the panel. Mohammad Faizal, it is only apt that I start with you. Now, what is your take on the controversy that we've seen after Prime Minister Modi went to Lakshadweep to promote tourism, travel?
That's true, exactly. When an internal matter which is pertaining to India, and that too to the direct controlled territory, like it's an union territory, and Lakshadweep is under the direct control of the Home Ministry, which in turn this is government or Prime Minister's own territory. When he speaks about his own territory and trying to put Lakshadweep into the world map of tourism, why does Maldives have any problem with that? It's really an unwanted thing, and it is they should have avoided such comments
Okay.
since that doesn't matter any of the bilateral relationship, any of our the long relationship into the Maldives. Well, then why
No,
should
no,
they
I understand.
comment on
Right.
such things? It's just totally an unwanted thing. It should
Okay,
have been avoided.
unwanted thing, says Mohammad Faizal. It is unwanted. And let's talk about the kind of response we have. Now, the meltdown by the Maldivian ministers, netas, the lobby, call them what you want to, is not surprising. I'm not surprised one bit. But the reaction of the ecosystem here in India, first to Modi bashing and then to India bashing, is abhorrent. To what lengths will we go to appease a vote bank? Dr. Anand Ranganathan, please set this in context for our viewers.
Good evening, Pranesh, and good evening to my fellow panelists. You're absolutely right, but I have to make a couple of points out here. There is good news and there is not so good news. Let me start with the good news. The good news is that our Prime Minister went to our own territory, loved the place, advertised about it, and it kind of, the Indians loved the fact that here was a Prime Minister who was going there and he was advertising a place as a tourist destination. Now, you have to be absolutely demented to think that his advertising in Indian territory would be egregious, or people from other countries would find it not in good taste. I mean, I've never heard that before. Just imagine if Indian were to take umbrage to a Frenchman advertising a tourist destination, for example, Eiffel Tower, or an Englishman advertising his own territory. That's just bizarre. So the good news is that our Prime Minister took active participation in advertising part of our country as a tourist destination. That's the good news. Now the not so good news, and there are two not so good news. I'm sorry to bring that to your attention. Number one, it's all very well to say that Lakshadweep should be an ideal tourist destination. Of course, it has wonderful beaches. But let me give you a comparison. In the last 3 years, 500,000 Indians, Pranesh, have visited Maldives. 9,500 Indians have visited Lakshadweep in the last 1 year. What do we want? There is, of course, lack of infrastructure. Do we want suddenly 4.5 lakh Indians or more than that to descend on Lakshadweep? Unless we make adequate infrastructure, it's going to be catastrophic, not only for the island, but also for the people who are visiting there. So before you have the infrastructure ready, I don't think we should be in a position to advertise a place as an alternative. Prime Minister Modi did not advertise it as an alternative to Maldives. He certainly said Indians should go there, but only 9,500 Indians per year go there. So clearly, it's not as yet a tourist destination. Coupled with that, the fact that when people go on a tourist destination, they like to drink. So drinking is prohibited. Other meats are prohibited. That's another matter. But finally, the second not so good news, and that's quite disturbing. You see, Pranesh, in the last 3 years, right from the fact that the present Maldivian government, that was an opposition then, has been letting loose an abusive vendetta non-stop against India. The current the chief of Maldives, I would call him chief, not the president or prime minister, because he acts like one, a Chinese puppet. He has been wearing India out t-shirts. He has been walking the streets, marching with India out banners for the last 3 years, not just this present, last months. While he's been doing this, while there's been active abuse of India as a, hate piled upon India, 500,000 Indians have visited that country. Now, I ask you a simple question. Would I like to visit a country that is actively abusing us, that is saying, Indians out, we don't want you, go out, get out? Would I like to visit that place? I wouldn't. And I'm sure you wouldn't as well. So what explains 500,000 Indians, going to a country, despite that country saying Indians out? That is really disturbing, and I want to get to the bottom of it. I'm sure other panelists would like to throw some light on that.
Dr. Ranganathan, now that the sentiments are changing, that I agree with the the 2 points that you made in the end. Now that the sentiments are changing and what we are seeing on social media is a reflection of that. Why are leaders of Team India undermining brand India? That's the question. Now, Tehseen Poonawala, you are a reasonable person. I can understand when Dr. Ranganathan says, look, the infrastructure on ground is not quite ready. But the Prime Minister did not say that, look, after I return, you are taking the next flight. He didn't say that. Why are we seeing or allowing or turning a blind eye to India bashing?
Good evening, Pranesh. Thank you for having me on the show. And for those of the fellow panelists who I haven't met before, a very happy new year. A couple of things. We are very grateful that the Honorable Prime Minister went to Lakshadweep. I have been to Lakshadweep. I've been fortunate enough, my wife and me, to go there. So fabulous, and he's promoted it. And like Dr. Anand Ranganathan rightly said, the Prime Minister was not putting any other nation down. He was promoting a part of India, which is his duty to do. So kudos to him. I think the larger point that we need to understand in this issue is a lot of Indians do own hotels in Maldives. So while I think it is terrible what Maldives is doing, I think it's terrible. I think there has to be, from the government side, and kudos to the government, they've handled this so far well. There has to be, it can't be like social media. You can't go all out. You have to take this, talk to them, and now start working with them and getting the sentiment down. So first, a lot of Indians own hotels. I think about 30,000 Indians also work in Maldives directly, mostly in the hospitality sector, actually all of them in the hospitality sector. So we have to protect our interests and our assets. That's point number one. Dr. Anand Ranganathan is absolutely right about the hate campaign in Maldives. This started actually 2 or 3 years ago, and sometimes I think, what is the raw desk doing? They completely missed the boat in Nepal when the Medicis were left out of the constitution. That had to lead to the Prime Minister blocking Nepal. Nepal is a great friend of ours. They completely missed the desk in when the I.N.D.I.A government took over, and they didn't know what is happening. Even when we stood eye to eye with China.
Allow me to ask you this.
No, 1 second. The viewers have to hear this. We stood eye to eye with China in Doklam. Today, the Bhutanese have given that territory away to China. So look, the government does the right thing. Nobody's being critical of the government unnecessarily. But the raw desk is continuously missing out on the important issues. These are critical questions we got to ask as Indians. This does not mean Sanjay or Suhail or the Honorable MP are supporting Maldives. If we don't ask our government questions, who are we going to ask?
Now,
what
let me read out.
Was bigoted.
You don't have, both you and I don't have access to officials of RAW.
Oh, please.
No,
Raw
1
knew
minute.
This was going on for 3 years.
No, 1 minute, Tehseen.
Are you telling the raw?
I am not saying what you're saying is not right. I am only saying, let's address what we can. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, 1 minute.
With that internet thing.
No, 1 minute. Abhishek Manu Singhvi. Now, will it take a raw official to explain to Dr. Singhvi, senior Congress leader, member of parliament, that when the sentiments are pro-India, people are promoting brand India, what is he doing? Not one word of condemnation has come from any senior leaders of Team India. If it has come, please read out the tweet. Then you have Priyanka Chaturvedi, another leader of Team India. Wonder if actors of the government will decide foreign policy. Hope PM's visit will lead to footfall, not FOMO tweets. What is going on? Suhail said, as someone, who travels so much, how do you see this controversy? Isn't it needless?
I totally agree with you, Pranesh. Needless it is, but in some way, I always believe that Narendra Modi has the habit of clutching victory from the jaws of defeat. In a very interesting way, he has awakened the interest and the interests of Indians in India itself. The last time such excitement happened was when governments spent money on promoting Indian tourism, with the incredible India campaign. Before that, for Kerala, the state, when they said God's own country, Madhya Pradesh. But for the first time, the Prime Minister was able to galvanize an entire country to look inwards, to introspect and see the beauty that surrounds us. That's number one. Number two, it would have all been just a Twitter troll war or an X troll war. Things became silly when the Maldivian ministers, the junior ministers, jumped into the fray. Koi zarurat nahi thi. This was a typical case of Ab el Mujhe maar. They weren't part of the party. You know, there's that old Hindi saying, Begani Shadi mein Abdullah Diwana. No one had asked them for their comments. It was something that was exciting all of India. Obviously, Lakshadweep has superb beaches. The comparisons would be with other beach resorts or beach destinations. Maldives came in, Sri Lanka was mentioned, but only the Maldivians jumped in. And then it took a life of its own. I mean, I did a lot of tweeting, but I used humor. And I did actually, in an ironic way, also issue fair warning. Please remember, Pranesh, you and I both know that we are not responsible tourists by and large as Indians. When we go to a destination, we leave a trail of litter,
So that
trail
is
of
changing.
garbage.
Suhail said
We
you
are
would
not
agree that
caring
is
of the
changing.
environment. And I said, I hope what we have done to the Shimlas and the Manalis doesn't happen to the Lakshadweeps of the world. The reason Lakshadweep has remained pristine is because A, it's arduously difficult to get to, and B, people didn't know about it. So on the one hand, the Prime Minister has created a surge of awareness. And on the other, we've created a diplomatic row. But I think that too will pass because, you know, people in the Maldives, the general public, opposition leaders have castigated those three irresponsible ministers for making those stupid comments.
Okay, but irresponsibility is not just in Maldives. There are many irresponsible tweets and comments here also. Sanjay Jha, before I bring you in, let me quickly ask Mohammad Faizal what he thinks of the comments made by opposition leaders because, Mr. Faizal, you're also part of Team India.
So I'm not able to see the comments which you have shown because I am not able to see the other part.
No, the comments are there for everyone to see, sir.
There are some issues which is pertaining to Lakshadweep. Obviously, that is there. But my point of at this point of time, what I wanted to clear is that the advocacy of the Prime Minister on the tourism aspect, it's welcoming, and entire world has come to know about the tourism scope of Lakshadweep. Absolutely no doubt on it. On the other hand, there are some administrative issues and administrative reforms which have caused people of Lakshadweep in a bigger way. But that is a different thing we have to discuss on a different
That's okay,
angle.
that we can, you know,
Once
sit across the table and have a dialogue and resolve all of those issues that you're talking
Maldives
about.
Commenting on Lakshadweep tourism, we all have to stay together. That Lakshadweep is a part of India and we need to develop Lakshadweep.
Right.
Because Lakshadweep by itself, it is a very good destination and a wonderful destination, a virgin destination and a futuristic, scopeful
No, you're spot on. In fact, Dr. Ranganathan
to the GDP of our country. That
underlined that bit in his opening remarks about the infrastructure.
Things, the administrative reforms the present administrator is trying to do, the lands reforms he is trying to do.
That
there
I understand.
Not many untrust in the people.
Mr. Faizal, all I wanted to ask, should we accept this kind of commentary till infrastructure is ready?
Land which is trying to be
will we allow India bashing
on
and
that
add
we
fuel
all
to it?
expected Prime Minister would be talking, but on that Prime Minister was silent, on which Islanders is not happy. But on a larger perspective, as a responsible citizen of India, as a responsible representative from that constituency, I would stand, supporting Prime Minister.
Okay, so you stand with PM Modi. I am glad you've taken that India first position. Sanjay Jha.
Pranesh, thank you very much for inviting me. And I just want to request you for some uninterrupted time. I won't take too long. In the interest of a very dispassionate debate. Point number one, and that is important, that I think the government employing celebrity bots to try and influence foreign policy is, I think, to my mind, rather ridiculous, rather, I would say, even vulgar. These are people I have admired in films and in sports, and to see them being treated as some kind of cattle you can whack and take them to any direction that you want. It's nothing wrong with promoting Lakshadweep, no problem at all. But we all know the circumstances in which this sudden deluge has come. And I'll tell you why that is a problem. Because I'm going to link this conversation today to one aspect that we seem to have missed, which is India's global security. And that is the point. Hear me out here. Number one, there is a government which is pro-China. I think Suhail knows that, and so do the other people. That is their internal politics. Now, should India alienate the entire Maldives? I mean, there are the other opposition party which was in government not long ago, which was more balanced between China and India. If we are going to do economic boycott of China, I heard some travel guy coming and saying that, we can do our own. Yeah, do your own. Nobody's stopping you. But stop trying to treat as if Maldives has suddenly become a plague.
No, I think Mr. Sanjay Jha, I think you're catching the wrong end of the stick.
Don't interrupt me. I requested you not to interrupt me. I'm going to take 30 seconds more.
Okay, sir. 30 seconds you have. Okay.
Yeah. So here is my point. That India will end up giving access to China for Maldives. And Maldives may be small with only 500,000 people, but everyone knows the strategic value of Maldives to the security in our part of the world. The second, and I think Tehseen pointed that out very well, the string of pearls strategy of China is working to the T. Whether it's Maldives, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, and you name
Jha, I understand the point you're making, but
why are you interrupting me again and again when I haven't even finished?
But Sanjay Jha, you asked for 30 seconds. I've given you more than that. Now, this can't be a monologue, sir. I'm sorry. We don't have
10 more seconds to tell you.
Okay,
that India
sir. Take 20 seconds. Finish it. Yes.
India is encircled by China. It is a national and a global security issue for China, for India, and you don't seem to worry about that at all.
Okay, Dr. Ranganathan, we are not worried about the larger strategic security implications, but the point is that the government hasn't said anything to alienate Maldives. It is the public sentiment. The private individuals Dr. Jha is talking about are as Indian, as leaders of Team India. They are entitled to express themselves. Dr. Ranganathan.
Precisely. They have all spoken in tandem at the same time of their own volition. You think all these actors and cricketers are speaking of their own
Sanjay,
volition?
I didn't interrupt you.
How ridiculous
I did not
is
interrupt
this?
you. Yeah, thank you. Pranesh, a couple of points here. Number one, yes, it is dangerous if China is encircling us, as Sanjay says. So what should we do? We should perhaps sign an MOU with the Chinese Communist Party. No, but the fact of the matter is, first of all, I think it is deeply patronizing. Now, this constant interruption is coming from someone who says, don't interrupt me. Sanjay, please don't do that. Thank you.
All right.
Now, it is deeply patronizing for Sanjay to label someone as, iconic as Amitabh Bachchan, Sachin Tendulkar, and other people as cattle ready to be whacked by the government. I mean, I'm shocked by the kind of language that has been used. Do they not have independent mind? Can they not feel that they need to tweet in support of an Indian territory and make it a tourist destination? Every time this happens, you are patronizing them and saying they don't have a mind of their own, that they're cattle ready to be whacked. Amitabh Bachchan, the icon of, for the last 50, 60 years, is now bending down, knee crawling, ready to be whipped by Narendra Modi on his command to tweet whatever he wants to be tweeted. That's ridiculous and very patronizing, and I'm offended by that. Not just Amitabh Bachchan, but Sachin Tendulkar and other icons of our country as well. Number two, Pranesh, you already said it, so I don't need to. I'll just take 10 seconds. Where has the Indian government or Narendra Modi disparaged or brought down Maldives? They haven't even mentioned it. Even now, 24 hours later, the government of India has not even said a word against Maldives. So to bring Indian government in, no. The fact of the matter is Sanjay advocating groupthink? That Indians should think the way others think or in groups? I would like to.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let's bring in Suhail Seth. Suhail Seth, you heard Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, 1 minute, sir. Suhail wants to come in. To come in.
After that.
I'll bring you in after that. Tehseen, let me bring in Suhail. Suhail Seth, you heard Sanjay Jha. You heard Dr. Ranganathan. What is your take on this kind of commentary that we've seen from India bloc leaders? The silent on Modi bashing, that's okay. But when leaders from other countries are ridiculing India, saying things, what do you make of it?
That is tragic. I've said this before, Pranesh, on your program, on Navika's program on Times Now, repeatedly. You may have an issue with Narendra Modi, the man, but today he occupies the high office of Prime Minister of India. When you knock him and you abuse the office of the Prime Minister of India, in many ways you insult the so-called democracy that you keep talking about. it's all right for these politicians to say, oh, India's democracy is under threat. But you people are threatening it. Every day you're taking pot shots at some constitutional office or the other. On one day, it'll be the vice president's office. On the other, it'll be the president's office. If you remember the comment that Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary passed, now it's the prime minister repeatedly. This nonsense has to stop. Plus, we are not seeking nationalism. It's an old saying, patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. So please don't, try and be more patriotic. No one is asking you. This is an issue of reviving the civilizational legacy, the charm, the beauty of India, the country. We should all be proud of it. By taking potshots at the Prime Minister, who are you actually insulting? You're insulting the people of India. You're insulting our civilizational legacy that you keep talking about is under threat. You're insulting everything that's beautiful about India, only to score ridiculous brownie points against a man.
Right, let's put that to Sanjay Jha. He wanted to come in. Tehseen, then I'll give you the last word on the show. Sanjay Jha, now when celebrities, prominent Indians, Dr. Ranganathan named some of those, it's a long list, I don't want to get into names. All they are saying in their tweets is explore Indian island. What is wrong with that?
Okay, Pranesh, a very short answer, since my friend Suhail mentioned civilizational legacy. I want to remind everybody, and particularly those celebrities on your screen, where were you, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, Mr. Sachin Tendulkar, Mr. John Abraham? I think I saw Ranveer Singh, I saw Virender Sehwag. Where were you when Manipur burned? Where were you when hundreds died and thousands were displaced? Where were you? Why were you so quiet? Why do you only emerge when there is something which the government needs to buttress or the sub-government needs to save its embarrassment from? And this is, I can tell you why, because I have grown up admiring these guys. And to see them become puppets in the hands of a government is a tragic comedy situation. God bless them and God give their conscience some rest.
No, Suhail said is also promoting Lakshadweep. So is Tehseen. Are they also puppets? I mean, what has this come to, Sanjay Jha? I mean, come on. Tehseen, do you agree with what he's saying?
Look, let me just say something that Sohail said and take that a little further and add to something that Dr. Ranganathan said. Dr. Ranganathan rightly said, where did the Honorable Prime Minister attack Maldives? He's right. The Prime Minister did not. Then, Pranesh, may I ask you, why is your questioning, not you personally, the media's questioning, that why is the opposition not attacking Maldives? Well, the Prime Minister didn't attack Maldives and the opposition hasn't. What we're talking about, and this is where I want to, again, I need this for your viewers to hear this. This entire issue with the Maldives.
I'm interrupting you only to correct the narrative. I don't know what the rest of the media is doing, Tehseen. All that I intended to ask was the larger question. Why go after people who are expressing their sentiment? That's all.
That's true, but I completely concede to that, and I think that that's great. But is our interest, India's interest in Maldives not important, whether economical, whether our people's interest? Number two, look, 3 years ago when this issue started, this is how this government's come into power. And I give Prime Minister Modi a lot of credit for what it's done with the Middle East, with the Global South. When this issue started over the internet, when the Indian Raw Agency went down, looking at the internet, we suspected China was looking at the internet. That's the whole history about this. What did your Raw test do? Didn't you realize that the other side was winning it? Look, you have to ask these tough questions. If you keep making these mistakes time and again, we have our regional aspirations.
Okay, 20 seconds, Dr. Ranganathan, then we'll have to take a break because Navika Kumar has tough questions to ask of Mr. Devendra Fadnavis on the other side. 30 seconds, Dr. Ranganathan.
No, I just wanted to point out the selectivity when somebody was saying that where was Amitabh Bachchan or Sachin Tendulkar about Manipur. So Sachin Tendulkar and Amitabh Bachchan haven't also tweeted about the Congress MLA that has been suspended on allegations of sexual misconduct against young children. Does that mean that Sachin Tendulkar and Amitabh Bachchan are also vassals or subservient to the Congress party? ये कैसा logic है भाई?
I haven't tweeted on Bilkis Banu either.
Yeah, now
Bilkis Banu either. Don't try and
Sanjay Jha, then many will ask, why didn't Rahul Gandhi have Bharat Jodo? No, last year. Why didn't he have it in 2020? I mean, this is endless. We've run out of time, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Mohammad Faizal, Suhail said, Dr. Ranganathan, Sanjay Jha, Tehseen Poonawala. That's all that we could patch in, viewers. Devendra Fadnavis with Navika Kumar.